15 degrees this morning at whatever time they took this temperature. I believe it was, well, I don't know, 5. Oh yeah, right there in front of my face. 5 a.m. It was 15 here. The official time on my atomic clock is 5:21 a.m. right down here. Wednesday, January 7, 2015. And I had to look up trans revolution. It didn't get in my head. I guess I was too tired. Trans means transsexual. So when you see that trans, you might as well know it's going to sex. These people are so twisted that everything goes back to breeding. Everything. And I've noticed that if it's certain ones, it's all about body, about sex, about look, about check you out. And it's hard to have a conversation with this type of person because their eyes will traverse your body, will be all over your body while you're trying to speak to them. They won't stay eye contact. They won't stick with eye contact because they have so many deviations that they can't. Every single time, it'll go back to them what they want as a breeder. And I'm not saying that to be mean, it's just an observation. And one of the most recent experiences I had with that, and I'm going to knock on wood after this because I want protection from it, was a yard guy knocking on wood, you know that old expression, who tried to swap sex with me for a job he did, which still to this day chills me to my bones, to my very core, that he would suggest something like that. And he's got this ideal of himself that he is just Mr. Wonderful. Mr. Wonderful dropout, Mr. Wonderful party thing with so much deviations on his mind he couldn't even get his lessons in school. If he was there, he was a problem. If he was gone, yay. That kind. And I didn't recognize the name when I got given the number for help when I needed help. And I am grateful for help being there, but at the price he was going to put on that help, I wouldn't recommend him to anyone. I just wouldn't, especially knowing that I was that far out in the country by myself, on my own. That it didn't turn bad, I am extremely lucky. Um, but it is on their mind all the time, and I know he had some drug problems. And that goes along hand in hand with the sexual deviations. It just does. That drug world canvasses other corruption with the child trafficking and the prostitution and child abuse, and it goes on and on. It's just a big underworld thing. And I don't mean to backlash. God knows I do not need any more backlashing. I've got a cold, excuse me. Um, I kind of refer to it as side trips. I'll get on my focus, on my topic that I want to get off my mind, and then I'll get a side trip or sidetracked. I don't like that either. I can't sometimes even get through a whole strand of thought before that'll happen. It just wipes me out, and I'll get upset, and I'll grab my coffee cup, and I'll kind of half stomp out my way out to the kitchen to refresh my cup or get a new one, whatever. And I'll alternate between instant and brewed. I've got both because I went to the store the other day and made sure I had both because I thought it was going to snow. It looked like weather was on its way in. It was so gray, and when I stepped out on the porch, I was talking to my son before he left or while he brought stuff in the house for me or unloaded his, groceries or whatever it was. I could feel little tiny bitty ice particles in the air, and I thought then and said to him that we would probably end up getting some snow. Well, yesterday they were calling for down to 8 degrees, and here at 5:27 a.m. 15. I don't know if it made it to the low or not. I do kind of keep an eye on it. See, like today, low of 9 or 1. I don't know now. I'm not the weather woman. I'm not the weather lady. But they always have this I, me, mine complex, I guess you could call it. And I think they're about breeding. I think they're about getting people into their program, whether the people want to be in their thing or not. I feel kidnapped a lot of the time into circumstances that I'm not even really present at, but I can sense it. And I'm pretty sure they're aware that I can sense it. Because I've even been psychic at one point. I'm not as much now. But back in the downtown house, John Myers and I both were really psychic. And I think part of that was because we were under a great deal of stress, with the goings on with uh, family services, which is actually family service, but um, it kept us keyed up all the time. And see, I may have explained this in a different video, but as a refresher, I was born and raised in the Southern Baptist Church, and I was a singer, and I was pretty good. I did solos, duos, trios, and duets, and in the choir. Well, I didn't play the instrument there, but that's another side trip we'll take briefly, was when I played violin. And I didn't really always like to practice, but I made first chair, and I didn't keep it for long periods of time because I wouldn't practice. I had too much other going on to practice. I didn't want to be bothered with practice. But there was like a struggle between 5 main ones of us that bounced back and forth between first, second, and third chair. It was kind of funny that way. And I don't know if we had just decided, all of us, to be slackers or what, to not keep and hold that position of first chair, because that's, the quote unquote mighty chair, the blessed space or something like that. But when you're at the top, a great deal of responsibility will come with that as well. In case some of you don't know, not everybody wants to be the top one on the totem pole. There's too much to burden, too much responsibility, too much to take into consideration every day, too much to worry about. Too much would go back to you if it went wrong and people decide to uh, try to rectify their situation by um, sending it your way, so you have to deal with it. It goes on and on and on. Who would really want to be the top one? Not all of us. At times it would be okay, I'm pretty sure. And you gotta look. of all situations, which all situations do have two sides, and maybe more, to consider that not everyone will consider. I don't want bothered with people that sex drive. I have no idea why my mic quit working and I'm back, but they have that residual attitude from back then. Whether they've changed or not, it takes a great deal of convincing sometimes that a person has changed. People that you've hurt aren't readily willing a lot of the time to accept what you say, even though you may have gotten on the right path and gotten back to church or got going back to school like you dropped out of before or something. You fooled them once, shame on you. They are already aware you're not going to fool them twice, so it won't be shame on them. It's still going to be shame on you. You know the old saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So a lot of people aren't going to have that go on in their world. So what I did, I found someone for $5 a month more, or not a month, but a trip out to mow. And what that got me actually was someone who I could still hold a casual conversation with, which wasn't why they were out there anyway. They were out there to work, not gab. But I mean, briefly, while I'm handing the money to pay them, like, oh, it was great that it finally rained this past week, isn't it? So you can come out and mow my grass again. And then, ha 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 ha. You know, that kind of casual. But it got someone out there who had actual business listing on his vehicle, had his stuff all lined up on his big, nice trailer, had a big, nice mower, didn't have to have his mother bring him. And the guy that his mother brought him, he's a year older than me. And I won't have to tell you how old I am. I've told you before. Why should I add insult to injury right then? I'm older than dirt. But he's older than me. And there he was in his little world that he janked up way back when and ended up in military prison and brags about it and goes around with a shotgun in his vehicle trunk and showed it to me. Has to have his mother, depend on his mother, uh, very much of the time for a way to get around to get those little jobs that he was doing $5 cheaper. And believe me, if I had realized it at first, what I was ending up with when I got the guy out there to begin with, I wouldn't have bothered. Because that still, like I said, had chilled me to my bones. You know, he was like as close to me now as I am to my screen, which is less than 3 feet. About 2 feet, actually. So think about that. He had a very, uh, not very great life as far as I'm concerned. But along with the nice truck and the vehicle and the guy's setup that he got with hard work, and that wasn't his only job either, but he had his hair cut and was trimmed, you know? He didn't look like something that just had crawled up off the street. Um, Clean looking, clean cut, clean talking, and did not try some kind of crap with me like that other one did. Okay? When I get wound up about something like this, that's no offense to the viewer, the listeners, my audience at all. And I do have to get this off of me, and here comes the end of this video in less than 15 seconds now, so but I'll get on a good screen for this next one.